Well, this this is truly an honor today. And when the national anthem was playing, it made me think back. And you know, you see the national anthem being played at ball games or wherever. People are talking, people are ignoring it, people are it's just background noise. And it really makes me appreciate when I was on the base, we'd go to the movie in the evening, go to theaters. And you know, the minute that flag came on the screen and they started the end. Okay. And they started the anthem. Everyone in that room stood at attention and it was dead quiet. There wasn't a sound. You could hear the end. And I wish that the people of this country could actually appreciate the price that has been paid for us to have the freedoms that we enjoy today. Every day. From the inception of our country 250 years ago, more than 1 million men have died in the fighting and the service and defending this nation. We have so many people that take it for granted. From September the 5th to October the 26th in 1774, the First Continental Congress was in session. 12 colonies had sent delegates there. Georgia was absent. Lee Amendment was proposed and discussed, it passed, and it was signed by the Continental Association. And in it, the declarations and resolves were called. They called for a boycott of the British goods to take effect on December the 1st, 1774. In 1775, British imports into the colonies dropped by 97%. The boycott was successful, but it was never able to reach its full potential because hostilities broke out in April after the battles at Lexington and Concord. But at the end of that Congress, the end of the First Continental Congress, they sent letters of invitation out for the Second Continental Congress to meet. Letters of invitation were sent to Quebec, St. John's Island, what we now today know as Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia, Georgia, East Florida, and West Florida. Letters of invitation were sent to all of those colonies. Georgia was the only one to respond to the and came to the Second Continental Congress. Second Continental Congress was from 1775 to 1781. It was the governing body that led the American colonies throughout the Revolutionary War. It was on July the 4th in 1776 that the Declaration of Independence was officially declared, and declaring our independence from King George and from the British Empire. We talk about the Declaration of Independence, but I wonder how many people have actually ever read or heard it. This is the action of the Second Continental Congress, July the 4th, in 1776. Let me take my glasses off so I can see better. The unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. Remember, at that time, each individual colony considered themselves their own state. I'm from the state of Virginia. I'm from the state of Pennsylvania. When, in the course of human rights, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter and to abolish it, and to institute the new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms from which they have become accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, invices a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. He has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance, unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be attained, and when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records, for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people. He has refused for a long time, after such dissolutions, to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers from invasion without and with convulsions within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose obstructing the laws of naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their office and the amount of payment for their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. He has affected to render the military independent and superior to the civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation. For quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by a mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond the seas to be tried for pretended offenses, for abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government, and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule to these colonies, for taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our government, for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. Could you hand me my cup, please? Apologize for that. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coast, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages, and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens, taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands. He has excited domestic insurrections among us and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers, the merciless Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their nature, to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and of consanguinity, which denounces our separation and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends. We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions due, in the name and by authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these United States, or that these United Colonies are, and of right ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states, they all have power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do, and for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. This day, our independence was declared from King George. This was because of all of the acts that the British Empire had imposed on the people in the colonies. They'd closed Boston Harbor. They'd stopped any kind of representative government. They'd undermined the decisions of juries. They required the quartering of British troops. I mean, if British troops showed up on your door, knocked on the door, You were required to bring them in, quarter them, and feed them. And if they did anything that shouldn't have been done, there was nothing you could do about it. There was no court to go through. In May of 1775, the Second Continental Congress opened in Philadelphia. In August of 1775, King George declared his subject had engaged in open and avowed rebellion. On June the 7th of 1776, Richard Henry Lee, a Virginia delegate, presented a resolution calling for independence. Resolved that these united colonies are and of a right ought to be free and independent states. They are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all politics between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved. It was seconded by John Adams. June the 11th of 1776, Congress appointed a committee of 5: John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, Robert Livingston, and Roger Sherman to draft a Declaration of Independence. On July the 1st, in 1776, the first vote on the Lee resolution failed. On July the 2nd, Congress reversed course. They passed the Lee resolution and declared our independence from Great Britain. In all, 56 delegates would sign that declaration. The last 7 was Thomas McKean. January of 1777, Congress approved the public printing with all 56 names of the petitioner, of the signers, for the first time. Of those 56 men, 9 would die in the coming war. 5 would be captured and tortured by the British before they died. 12 had their homes ransacked and burned. 2 of those men would lose a son in the war. 1 of them would lose 2 sons in the war. Carter Braxton, he saw the British destroy his ships and his shipping business. He sold everything that he had left, and in the end, he died penniless. Thomas McKean had to move his family constantly. He lost everything he had. He received no pay, and he died bankrupt. Thomas Nelson Jr. asked General George Washington to shell his own home because the British General Cornwallis was using it as his headquarters. His home was destroyed. He stood there and helped direct the fire to do it. He died bankrupt. Every man that signed that declaration was committing treason according to the king. And there was only one punishment for treason, and that was death. There is so much that has been said trying to undermine the thing of the divine guidance that brought this nation into being. There's so much that has been said, people trying to say that we're not a Christian nation. We were never a Christian nation. It wasn't founded. Some of them were absolutely not Christian men at all. But God used those men. He put them in the position that they were in because they served a valuable purpose. This nation has been built, protected by our God throughout its inception, or ever since its inception. General Washington earned a name from the Indians in the war that would follow. And the Indian chiefs told their men, stop wasting your powder and your bullets trying to kill him. They named him the man who could not be killed. Time and time and time again, General Washington's clothes had holes in them from musket balls that never touched him. It was documented so many times. It is irrefutable that this happened. And I don't really have Bible verses to put with this. I just know that our country has been blessed and held together by the hand of God. Our country was brought about by the hand of God, by the hand of Yahweh. So as we celebrate this day, take some time and think about all the suffering and all of the things that have been given so that we can be here today, and we can be here freely, that we can be here, that we can meet in this building, and we don't have to worry about being attacked and beheaded. We don't have to worry about being attacked and beaten, raped, burned, whatever. We don't have to worry about that. And that's because Yahweh has protected this country.